Okay. This one comes from Michelle.
Michelle.
And
Michelle from the Midwest?
Michelle from the Midwest.
Great.
Discuss the correlation of Jung's theories to paganism, faith, and accepted science.
Okay.
Under 20 minutes.
Yeah, right. Now, here's the deal. I am a fan of Carl Jung. For those of you not familiar, it's Jung. So it's not Jung. It's Jung, like Erica Young, not Erica Jong. Fear of Flying. Okay. He's, in my opinion, the father of the archetype. He's the one who named it. He's the one who gave us the term the collective unconscious. He's also the one, I believe, who gave us the term synchronicity.
Not sure.
In its larger sense. So, I adore his work. I've read a lot of his work. Jungian psychology, to me, is fascinating. Jungian archetype, to me, if I really had to specialize, that's what I would specialize in, except nobody would know what the hell I was talking about. So, if you take things like archetype, the craft is riddled with archetype. The witch itself is an archetype. When you are dealing with survival, there are 4 archetypes. We've talked about this many times before. The child, the victim, the saboteur, the prostitute. Those things are active in all of us. When people come to the craft, it's usually for some sort of survival thing. How to get by, how to make more money, how to bring love into your life. And if people think that that's not a survival issue, they're nuts. Okay? Because the child within us needs to be held until we're ready to hold ourselves, and we will search and hunger for people. I think that as we are evolving as a, again, religion, big word, as a movement of the craft, we have to start looking at the psychology behind things. It's not enough to know what you want anymore. You must know why you want it. And now, see what is in front of the eyes. Usually, not everybody casts that way, but most books you read, again, the recipe book style, it's about, I need more money, this candle, this crystal, this incantation, this time of day of the year, etc. All these things get me something outside. The what is usually pretty easy to define. The why, you want it much harder to look at. And the funny thing is that people think the what is the engine and the why is the caboose, and it's not. The why is your motivation, is the steam engine, is the engine.
The driving force.
The driving force. The what trails behind it. And that's why people don't always get what they cast for, but they get what they need, because you always lead with the need or the why or the motivation. That's the energy, the power behind the spell. So I think it is necessary for us to, if not Jungian psychology or dealing with archetypes, some sort of interior process of, if not psychoanalysis as Freud would have done. I'm not a big friend of Freud. I'm a forever Jung. Forever Jung. Because he dealt with dreams. He dealt with the subconscious and the unconscious. He didn't think that a cigar was always a penis. He didn't dwell on penis envy, as well Freud certainly did. Freud seemed to have a lot of sexual stuff going on.
He had a lot of issues.
Where Jung was kind of, in a way, I think if he had been in a different time and in a different place, he would have moved more towards mysticism, because that's sort of the direction he was headed in. But, you know, being who he was and where he was in the time, there was no room for that. He probably reincarnated as a mystic, I would think. Because if you can't really get to those places inside of yourself, you may very well be able to manifest things in the outside world, but your life will never really change in terms of content. It's really, ultimately, the power of the witch is to change the self. It's to change the interior world, and then the exterior world takes care of itself. And I find the work of Carl Jung, or at least Jungian psychology, or if you're not going there, at least work with archetypes, and if you don't want to go there, at least work with interior motivations. That will transform you from the inside out.
Otherwise, you keep asking for the same thing over and over again.
In different forms, which I see a lot of. It's very serial manifestation, S-C-R-I-E-L, not C-E-R-E-A-L, little Captain Crunch. Serial manifestation. I mean, it's really no different than serial monogamists. We just go from one long term to the next long term with no break in between, maybe a day, so they can get back on Match.com and meet somebody new. Let's talk about the vampire archetype there. So I think Jung's work really, really is important for witches to at least investigate. You don't got to make it the core and central learning and teaching of everything you do. But this is why I have always said I love being an eclectic, because it allows me to do the research. It allows me to study whatever I choose, whatever that interests me. And I think there's really nothing quite so fascinating as the mind, and particularly with the conscious mind, but the subconscious mind, fascinating. The unconscious mind, speechless. Speechless. It's the collective, it's where we all join together, and at that point, spirituality, because we are spirit, and psychology must merge.